This meeting of the Tyler ISD Board of Trustees was previously called to order. The presence of a quorum has been established, and the meeting has been duly called, and the notice of the meeting has been posted in the time and manner required. Thank you all for joining in and coming out tonight. We're going to start this meeting like we do every other one with a prayer and the pledge, and I'm lucky enough to do that tonight. So we'll stand up and say a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I wouldn't doubt that you're getting a few more phone calls than usual right now, but I'm also thankful that your line is never busy and your bandwidth is infinite and your capacity is limitless. And if I turn on the news and listened for a bit, I've had all the reasons in the world to be fearful. But if I turn off the news and look around at the beauty you've lovingly created, I'm reminded that there is no fear in love, and your perfect love is what drives out fear.
Yes, sir.
I can walk confidently through trials, whether they be economic, spiritual, or health-related, Lord, knowing that you're a God of eternity, and these trials are but a small particle in this life that is just a vapor. Whom or what shall I fear, God, if I know you? Thank you for the opportunity to serve this community, a community that looks to you for guidance. Thank you for the chance to serve the children of this town who we'll pass on the torch to one day. And we pray you'll give our community, our teachers, staff, parents, our students, peace as we navigate these waters, that they may lean into your love and out of whatever fears they're facing. It's in my Savior Jesus Christ and your Son's name I pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, we're reconvening from executive session, and there is some action to take on items we discussed in executive session. The first is considering hiring of professional personnel, and Dr. Crawford, I believe we have Moore Middle School, Hogg Middle School, and Austin Elementary on the agenda.
Yes, sir. We're very excited to have before you today three individuals who have earned their way into a principalship here in Tyler ISD. The first one I'll put in front of you will be Josh Curry to be the new principal at TJ Austin Elementary School. Josh came to Tyler ISD in 2017 to serve as an assistant principal at Robert E. Lee High School. Most recently, he served as principal at Hubbard Middle School. Prior to Tyler ISD, Mr. Curry held administrative and teaching roles in Carrollton Farmers Branch ISD, Louisville ISD, Life Schools, Oak Cliff, and Houston ISD. Josh Curry, TJ Austin Elementary School Principal. The next individual, you'll take these separate, I'm sure, but I'll just go ahead and go over all the bios.
Okay.
The next individual will be Dr. Kristen Walls, Hogg Middle School Principal. Dr. Kristen Walls has held administrative roles at Robert Lee High School since 2017. She began her career in education in 2007, where she used her experience as a doctor of chiropractic to become a career in technical education health science teacher in Garland ISD. She joined the staff at Robert E. Lee High School in 2009 and served as CTE Health Science Department Lead and Technical Dual Credit Instructor at our own CTC prior to going back to Lee as an assistant principal. And the final new principal to bring in front of the board will be Aubrey Ballard from Moore MST Magnet School. Aubrey Ballard has been an educator in Tyler ISD since 2011. He has held assistant principal roles for the past 4 years at Moore MST Magnet School, one of the highest achieving middle schools in the state of Texas. Prior to his assignment at Moore, Mr. Ballard taught social studies and science at Dogan Middle School and also taught and coached in the private sector. those are our 3 new ones, but I do have other announcements to make once y'all take action on the 3 newly recommended principals.
Okay, fair enough. We will, I guess we'll go Moore, Hogg, and Austin. So do I have a motion for the Moore Middle School principal position?
Mr. President, I move that we accept the recommendation from administration to appoint Mr. Aubrey Ballard as the new principal of Moore Middle School.
Thank you, Reverend Hager. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. Congratulations to Mr. Ballard. Next, we have Hogg Middle School. Do I have a motion concerning Hogg Middle School principalship?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the administration's recommendation for the employment of Christian Walls for the principalship at Hogg Middle School.
Thank you, Reverend Mason. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Congratulations, Mrs. Walls. And finally, do I have a motion for principal for Austin Elementary School?
Move to approve Josh Curry for the principal at Austin Elementary.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Curry.
Mr. Washman, Board, I've also had some other announcements I'm pleased to make. It's spring. It's that time of year to where we reshuffle our org chart to make sure that we're continuously improving at our campuses. And I'm honored tonight to bring to you some other announcements of sitting principals or administrators in the district already approved by the Board of Trustees for those roles and, those capacities in this school system. And I'll just go through a few of them. The new Executive Director of Human Resources, replacing Ms. Laura Cano, who has resigned to pursue other interests, is Sherry Taylor. She's been in campus administration in Tyler ISD since 2016. Most recently served as Hogg Middle School principal for the last year, and y'all remember her as doing a fabulous job at Bell Elementary School since 2016. Prior to that, she came here from Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD, where she held similar roles. Tara Hinton will be going to Clarkston Elementary School as principal. She's most recently been at Bolter Middle School and was an outstanding principal in getting Orr Elementary School turned around when she arrived here in 2014. Prior to that, Ms. Hinton held administrative roles in Manor ISD. One of our rock stars in the district we're very proud of, and just a very versatile administrator for us. It's kind of like the old quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Cordell Stewart. They called him Slash. So she's our Slash. That's Vanessa Holmes, is going to be the new Bolter Middle School principal. I said in a quote here that Ms. Holmes exemplifies the Tyler ISD standard of placing our best principals where needed the most, when needed the most. And she's taken on any leadership role and position when called upon, and she's graciously accepted this position as well. Did an outstanding job in leading Dogan, and really cares about the John Tyler feeder pattern, and her making this commitment to go to Bolter to make sure that we're producing outstanding high school or middle school students to send on to high school at John Tyler is something that means a lot to me. So I want to make sure I've spent a little bit more time saying some great things about Vanessa, because I do feel that way about her. And the last assignment that I'll be announcing here is a guy that's been in our school system for 20 plus years, leading Moore MST Magnet School as the next principal at John Tyler High School, and that's Mr. Claude Lane. Been one of the top performing middle schools in the state of Texas. He has set a framework for high academic achievement. He's fostered robust and award-winning extracurricular athletics and performing arts programs during his tenure at Moore MST. And the thing I can tell you about Claude Lane is he loves Tyler, Texas. And he loves everything that we do in this school system, and he has graciously accepted this role and has told me, as late as today, his goal is to make John Tyler the best high school in the state of Texas. Those are your new folks that'll receive assignments. We'll be putting this out on a press release and to the district staff as well. pretty much after this meeting. So there you go.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Crawford. We do have a lot of high-quality employees that are going to do great in their new positions. I know that. Okay, moving on. We do have, from executive session, a couple of non-renewals or terminations of probationary contracts in the best interest of the district. So I'll go ahead and entertain a motion on those items.
Mr. President, I move that the district terminate the probationary contracts of Dana Jackson and Lanisha Wheeler in the best interest of the district, effective at the end of the current contract period.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Martinez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Berkfeld. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion carries. And now we're moving on to something that's we've been having to kind of deal with for the last couple months. In Freeman Sterling's passing, we have had an absence in our board for single member District 3. And we have conducted a couple of interviews for that position and are ready to go ahead and fill that hole that's in our board. And so does anybody have a motion for the appointment of a school board trustee for single member District 3?
Mr. President, I move that we appoint Mrs. Yvonne Atkins as the school board trustee to fill that vacancy until election time. District 3, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Mason.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion carries, and we have a new trustee, Ms. Yvonne Atkins. And Ms. Atkins, we are looking forward to serving with you and welcoming you to this team. Okay.
Mr. Washman,
Yes.
you have item B under number 6.
Item B.
Page 7 in your agenda.
Yes, sorry about that. Got a little ahead of myself. Item B, which we have recommendation for all of our contracts. We do not want to skip that one, do we?
That's directors and above, including
Right.
campus principals that you have on that list right there.
Very good. Okay, do I have a motion to approve those positions and items under item B?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Crawford.
Thank you, Gino.
Thank you, Gina Orr. Okay, well, these are interesting times, no doubt. And as we sit here and talk to an empty room, aside from Miss Gina back there, in these interesting times, I'm going to do something a little interesting right now. This is Orinthia Mason's last full meeting as a trustee. And how long have you served on the board, Miss Mason?
15 wonderful years.
15 wonderful years. Well, about 7 years ago, I had my first meeting, and you were appointed board president, and I got to sit through 2 years where you were at the helm and leading meetings. And before you go, this is the last opportunity I think I'll be able to see it again. So I'm going to do something a little different, and I'm going to yield my chair to you if you want to finish out this meeting. One more go. What do you say?
You're determined that I oh, we're on the mic. You're determined that I cry.
Well, I guess that's a yes. Okay, so I'm yielding the gavel, and Miss Mason is going to finish, and I'm going to let you sit right here, too. We need to do it proper.
Wow.
Next, we have public participation, and those two things are right there for you. Now, I wouldn't want to do this without you having your phone right beside you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. President. What an honor. What an honor. Thank you. We have 2 speakers this evening, I believe, for public speaking. The first person is Christina Babino, an advocate and supporter of Lanisha Wheeler. Is Babino, is that correct? Babineau. Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon.
And you have 5 minutes to present.
All right. Well, my name is Christina Babineau, and I am a special education teacher at Rise Academy. I do appreciate this opportunity to speak in light of Mrs. Lanisha Wheeler in regards to the recommendation to the board that her contract be non-renewed. I have served as an educator for 15 years. The last 4 years have been with Tyler ISD at Rise Academy. In my personal experience working alongside with Mrs. Wheeler, I can attest to her ability to connect and develop positive rapport with students, staff, and parents. She is a team player and has served as a cohesive dynamic to our program at Rise Academy. For many of our students who have encountered challenges prior to their opportunity at Rise and really on their last breath of hope, she has helped to inspire them, and I mean that in the actual essence of the meaning, to breathe life back into. She is definitely an individual I trust. I believe in her work ethic, and I will go to bat for her, advocating on her behalf. Thank you. I appreciate this time.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Lanisha Wheeler. Her topic is my name and contract renewal. Good evening, Mrs. Wheeler. Welcome, and you have 5 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Lanisha Wheeler, and I come before you tonight on behalf of myself. I did see my name on the list of contracts being non-renewed, and I do understand the human resource and termination process. I also understand contract and non-renewals in regards to my job here at TISD. However, my concerns are, one, why was my contract listed as probationary? If the board sees fit, I would like to get the reasons why my contract was not renewed, because I've taught for 12 years and I am questioning the terms of my contract. I feel as though I have provided a quality service to my students above and beyond my job's description and the requirements. For example, I began tutoring students on my own accord that were non-readers at my last assignment. From 2nd grade to 5th grade, students that were unable to read, I tutored them from 7 a.m. to 7:30. Also, I only missed 1 day of work this year. That was on February the 28th. And the week before spring break, I took 1 Friday off. But I've been at work every single day, constantly giving my all to the students that I serviced. I've been a flexible employee with all of the changes that I've experienced throughout the school year, 6 changes to be exact. I was hired as a writing teacher, also AVID coordinator. I was self-contained, and then I went to being departmentalized. And then I went to being a science teacher, and then co-teacher with another teacher. When the SEAs were in the high 60s, my scores were questioned, and I wasn't allowed to test my students for the benchmark 1 test. Yet and still, after the students were tested, they still scored in the 60%. If we're a data-driven district and the data truly matters, then in the best interest of the district, I would like to leave that question with you on tonight. In this worldwide epidemic that we're encountering with this COVID-19, and all that I know that I've given in regards to the students that I've serviced in the North Tyler area. It has been heavy on my heart. And I would not be before you today if I hadn't felt that I had been treated fairly. But I want to ask you truly, is the decision to not renew my contract in the best interest of the district? Thank you so much for your time, and have a great evening.
Thank you, Ms. Wheeler. Roman numeral 8, approval of minutes for March the 5th, board workshop, and March the 23rd, regular meeting. I'll be glad to entertain a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the minutes of March 5th and March 23rd.
All right, thank you. Dr. Nations? Second. Reverend Hager, second. Are there any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposers? The ayes have it and the motion carries. Thank you. Roman numeral 9, continuous improvement student outcomes, literacy and professional development updates. Dr. Crawford?
Yes, ma'am. We are awaiting either Dr. Hanson and or Shauna Hiddle to make their way to the Davidson room here at the Plyler complex, and they're going to provide the board some updates in regard to some of the literacy initiatives that we continue to work upon, even though we're in this strange time period, along with some of our professional development that will be occurring during this time as well, that we're going to require for our teachers.
I hear some footsteps.
I hear people coming. Gina, are they both coming in at this time? Dr. Hanson, and then
I say, I know who that walk is.
Shauna. So, y'all just kind of want to.
Yeah, we'll just,
You
we
have that
will
microphone?
tag team it. Yes. Thank you, board and acting president. We're sorry to see you go,
Thank you very
Reverend
much.
Mason.
Thank you.
We're just going to spend a minute talking about the literacy plan and also professional learning. They sort of integrate at this point. So I just wanted to give you a quick update, just in case you were wondering where we are and if some of the circumstances of the day have sidetracked us, and in fact they have not. Today we have started our Unit 4 letters module. What would have been face-to-face, our face-to-face after they finished their online, and now it is their webinar after they finished their online. So we had 4 campuses go through that today. Their Silk Plus teams went through that, and then that'll happen the rest of this week. And our early childhood letters, Unit 4, is also next week. So that's continuing. And then the Children's Learning Institute, we are rolling out our PA and phonics lessons and PLC training virtually, also between now and the end of the year. So that's still rolling along. As of right now, TEA is telling us that reading academies are full speed ahead, so we are as well, and we have people that are engaged in becoming Reading Academy cohort leaders. We are not a provider. We will have an MOU with another entity and they will be the provider of the training, but we will have 2 Reading Academy cohort leaders next year. And those cohort leaders will begin the reading academies with teachers, and we'll start that process. We have until every teacher K through 5 will have to complete the reading academies by the fall of 2021 at this point. So, but we'll get started on that, or we are started on that as well. So all of our early literacy activities and efforts have not gone aside. We are still working very diligently on that piece.
Yeah, so So, all right, so in addition to the early literacy piece, we are continuing this spring. We have lots of things lined up to continue to help support our teachers in light of school continuing to be at distance learning. So we will continue to focus on digital innovation, and we are still offering sessions every day for our teachers to participate in. Of course, it started very basic. The first time I spoke to you about this, we've moved into how to re-engage our students at this point and how to do some different things to continue our students learning in an engaging way, distance and remotely. So we are also looking at professional learning for our teachers to continue their own professional growth beyond the remote learning pieces, which is we are looking at building some content course options that are digital that normally we would do face-to-face with our contents. We are looking at building courses digitally as well. So we don't know where we'll be this summer. We don't know where we'll be, you know, obviously we're still not on face-to-face this spring. So we are looking at some options for that to carry in. Along with all those different options that we are doing requires a different way to facilitate that professional learning. So my team is also working on facilitation training. So anybody who does professional learning remotely will have training on that, on how to effectively facilitate professional learning. So those are kind of what we're focusing on this spring in addition to the literacy piece that's going on. And then we'll look at the summer. So this summer, depending on where we are and what we're able to do, we are still looking at some face-to-face options. If we are not able to do face-to-face, then we will have online learning opportunities as well. So that will just continue into this summer, and we'll go ahead and the things that we were planning to do this summer we'll continue to offer, but online. So we will also be looking at, it's a great opportunity for us to focus on blended learning, professional learning, and personalized. So what that means is you do part of it online, you go off and you practice it on your own, and then you come back to that remote environment. And so we're working on that as well. And we know that there's going to be a lot of social emotional needs for our students naturally, as well as our teachers and staff. And so we are bringing in some social emotional training this summer. If we're not able to do that face-to-face, they're prepared to do that via webinar as well. So we also know with our students at all different places right now that we're predicting some student learning gaps to have occurred. So as great as our distance learning program has been, we know that there are some students not getting the same opportunities that they would inside a classroom with that teacher. So some of our professional learning this summer will be on how to close some of those gaps, and so what to do with that. Okay. And then we'll roll right into the fall.
So what questions can we answer about literacy or professional development for you?
Yes, Dr. Nations.
You had said that for the reading academies, we will have people who will lead those, but the MOUs, we would have the MOU with someone else to provide that?
Yes.
Do you know who will?
We have some options that we're talking through.
Okay.
I don't think your mic is on, Dr. Nations.
Do what?
Is your microphone on?
Oh, I've got to talk right.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
The way that the statute that came out of the 86 legislature was you had to make a choice on either partnering with an approved provider or become a provider yourself. But if you were to become a provider yourself, you were going to have to dedicate, I think, up to 30% of your time.
Spots. Mm-hmm.
Or 30% of your spots to other school districts. In other words, they could choose you as a provider. So we were operating pretty lean as it was in CNI. We're even going to be operating even leaner now. So I think this is the best course of action. It's just choosing the correct provider.
Any other questions, board members?
Dr. Hanson?
Yes, sir.
Just kind of an estimate. So we're wrapping up, I guess, the first year of major PD focused on literacy. Not that it hasn't happened before, but kind of a major retooling, significant resources. At the end of this year, what percentage of TISD
So I'm going to say that this year we really focused on pre-K through 3. There was a lot of work with fourth and fifth grade teachers. It was mainly through staff on the campus that we have what's called the SILT Plus members, and they're the people that are taking letters and really diving deep into the science of teaching reading. And they did roll out a lot of PD to their own staff. I can tell you that the professional work, our money was spent predominantly on pre-K through 3 this year. And I would say that exponentially the quality of the PA and the phonics lessons that we're seeing in those early childhood classes are just, in those early literacy classes are just phenomenal. And actually witnessed through some of the videos that we see on Facebook. It's been fun for me because I see now how those teachers are teaching even more, and so it's been terrific. They're really doing a terrific job.
So you think within that pre-K through third grade, that shorter window, that 100% of our teachers have received significant professional development in this area?
Right. So everyone pre-K through 3 received the training from the Children's Learning Institute, unless they were a late hire or something. By October, we saw about 50% of those teachers really implementing it with what we would sort of call high quality. And then when they came back through in February, they really saw an improvement and now it was an audit, so they didn't see every teacher, right? But they really saw a higher level of understanding and implementation of those instructional strategies. And of course, we had a plan to but all of that PD is still being rolled out, so the teachers are still working through that PD and also practicing with their kids virtually.
Just to refresh the board's memory, SILT stands for Campus Instructional Leadership Team.
Thank you.
The plus means that they were to go through the deep dive on the letters. Mm-hmm. And those members are your principal, your assistant principals, your master teachers, and then identified
one per grade level.
One per grade level
in K through 3.
They're the ones that went through a lot of the letters opportunities that we had, just so we're not speaking educational jargon to you. SILT with a C.
Yes.
If I might ask, and you may be addressing this later, Dr. Crawford, have you been observing the teachers in their distance learning, the techniques, the quality of the learning, and are you ready to make any recommendations in your discussions with the administrative staff on ways we can improve that learning? I see Superintendent shaking his head.
Yeah, it's all over the place. But
okay.
But I think it's tightened up a little bit. I think when we first rolled it out, it was just trying to get something off the ground.
Yes.
In a very hybrid fashion. We've tried to tighten it up the last, 1 or 2 weeks as far as what standards we want to see. It's nowhere near where we want it to be. For one, we've got some device inequity that's going on. We're hoping to bring a package to y'all later on. We'll talk about that to maybe supplement that over the next few years. And then we've got to get better at teaching our folks how to conduct that and what we're asking of them. So I think that's something that's going to be a lot more prescriptive on our requirements. Don't think about the college model so much, even though the college model does have some benefits. There are prescribed times when you're supposed to be on an online class forum. It may not be that case for our students, but we're thinking a prescribed time if we were in a distance learning situation like we are now, to where there's a prescribed time where those teachers are to be sitting down, providing instruction with the proper tools to help them. Because I'm not sold on our tools. They know that. I'm saying that to y'all. I'm sure you as parents are thinking, how many times do I got to sign into Clever and Google Classroom and all other types of things? So, we're dipping our toe in the water, but I think it's one of those things, Reverend Mason, to where you go through a crisis like this and you wind up being better on the other end of this. And I really do think that's going to be integral for us as we talk about integrating technology more and more into our classroom experiences. This has certainly awakened us.
Forced us into it.
And I think we're going to get better with it. But I think, again, it's going to have to be some pretty stringent boundaries that we're going to have to set for our teaching staff to make sure that they're actually participating in a live classroom instructional methodology, as opposed to this thing we're just saying, you got to accomplish these things by this date. That's pretty easy for a 19 or 20-year-old that's in college that's away from home for the first time. That's kind of one of the expectations when you send your kid off to college. But when you start talking about dealing with 3rd and 4th and 5th graders, our parents at home are struggling on that. So we need to help what that solution is, and that is from the teaching standpoint and from the systems and tools that we have to make it a little bit easier for our at-home learners.
So I did want to also let you know that we have, based on that, all of our administrators they have codes to be guests in their Google Classrooms of all of their teachers, so they can do walkthroughs through their classrooms just like they could in a regular classroom. It looks different, obviously, but there are things to look for. And so over the first couple of weeks, what we noticed in the struggles that teachers were having in their classrooms, we did do model classroom training last week. So we did involve teachers that were within our district that we saw some really great things happening to help us develop some professional learning for that. And so all of our principals were aware of that and who they needed to send to that training. And so we had quite a few teachers attending the model classrooms last week. So that was a very successful thing we did.
Yeah.
We have a lot of principals that are in the classrooms and
Oh, that's
monitoring
good.
it.
And then one other thing that we're going to have to consider, based upon the governor's comments about buildings being closed for students and visitors, it's open for staff. Whenever the county by county, whenever those restrictions are lifted, then you're actually going to be able to consider bringing staff in.
Right, that's good.
Now, there's a lot of wind-down activities that are going to have to occur over the year, and we'll get to those in my report. But one thing that we're thinking about is, can we bring in small groups to provide some of these opportunities? Can they do some of their work from their actual computer? Yeah, in their classroom.
Okay.
And I will say that we've learned a lot in the last 6 weeks, 5.5 weeks. So we know more about how to do a much better job as we move forward. And so should there, God forbid, ever be another situation, I think we have a plan. We're ready to talk through it with, upper administration of how we can roll things out seamlessly and be more prepared.
Yeah, we'd prefer not to build the plane while we're flying it.
And we appreciate that. Okay, anyone else? Board members? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are now up to business, legal, finance, consent agenda update. Is there anything or any item to be pulled? No? May I have a motion to approve Roman numeral 10, A through F?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, moved by Reverend Hager, seconded by Dr. Nations, that we approve Roman numeral 10, A through F. Any questions or concerns? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposers? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Thank you. Roman numeral 11, curriculum, instruction, consent agenda. Do we need to pull anything in this section?
Please pull A.
Please pull A.
And
All
then
right.
B and C are MOUs that we do annually, a traditional routine thing that feels good to say, with Tyler Junior College
All right.
in regard to their dual credit classes and the TSI course for math and reading that will qualify you for junior college. So very proud of that partner that we have right across the street, one of the best junior colleges you can find, best colleges you can find in the nation, Tyler Junior College.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve Roman numeral 11, B and C?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bergfeld. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposers? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Roman numeral 11A. Dr. Crawford?
Yes, ma'am. On page 52 and 53, as Mr. Bitter walks to the podium, way to be on the spot, Bitter. We have in front of you a suspension, or actually a resolution in suspending board policy EIC local that deals with class ranking. So I'm going to let Mr. Bitter take us through this, and then we can have a discussion after that.
Okay. Well, good evening, Board. Appreciate the opportunity to share with you a little bit about how we will be addressing a very important issue for a lot of the folks in our community, and you may have fielded a question or two related to something like this here in the last few weeks. And so what we've done really is look to create something that, one, is not punitive as it relates to issues that we have with equity in our system and outside of it, some of that stuff Dr. Crawford mentioned with devices and different things like that. And then guidance from TEA or other bodies that have tried to address some of this issue. Really, it's been very vague, and then some of the things that have been put into place have been kind of just scattered around, whether they were first semester based or they were the third 9 weeks based. And so what we've done is look at something where we try to make some common sense and give kids every opportunity to be successful. What that looks like, essentially for the classes that we are administering, the things that we're doing here in Tyler ISD at the high school level, and some at the middle school level, but those courses that count for high school credit, you'll see an adjustment there with no formal grade for the 5th 6 weeks as we work through a transition time. And then also with the 6th 6 weeks being calculated in a little different way for those yearly classes to essentially reflect the body of work for the year for a student. And so what that looks like is the 6th 6 weeks being calculated as an average of the first 4 6 weeks, okay? And then that second semester being calculated as an average of that 4th and 6th 6 weeks grades. And then as that stuff gets inputted, then it kind of fits back into what we normally do, and our software will calculate it correctly. Very important. A lot of, you've seen things out there about folks moving to a pass-fail system, folks moving to different things, mastered, proficient, not proficient, developing. There are a lot of things in there that really benefit us as having a number in the grade book as something to calculate as we move forward with GPAs and different things in the future, for our kids who are in even down to grade 7 who are taking classes for high school credit. Clearinghouse issues, admissions, different things like that, and so important for us to be able to get that there. We have a little bit different system in there for the 4th 6 weeks, and essentially where that grade would serve as the course grade for a semester course, and then with campuses being able to develop kind of a tiered program to give kids who are in danger of not receiving credit for that course or a year-long course the ability to work through that program, meet its requirements, working closely with their teachers and their campuses to where we could award them credit and give them a 70 in the grade book. Okay. So that's a brief look. The dual credit courses and stuff that happens through early college and different things like that, we still were able to get those grades according to the timeline that we normally calculate them for GPA and class rank, and then they are still moving through their classes online now. A little bit different setting, but a little more continuity in that setting than the K-12 setting in just the stuff that we administer.
Okay,
So that's
board
a brief
members, excuse me, I'll see if they have any questions to ask
Sure.
you, Dr. Bitter.
I'm trying to read and at the same time. When you talked about dual credit, tell us again how those classes are going to be graded.
So our dual credit courses, we actually, generally the way that we had calculated GPA was at the end of the 5th 6 weeks. And so we were able to get grades from TJC matching up with that date that corresponds at the end of the 5th 6 weeks. So we will still be able to calculate those as we normally would. And then the grading process will play out as they move through and get the final grades.
Mr. Bergfeld, most of our dual credit courses are already doing a lot of online traditionally. So they should have seamlessly rolled through their government or economics or maybe a college algebra class if you were taking them There are probably some that are just proctored on the campuses. Is that correct, Mr. Bitter? Or is
Yes, sir.
everything using Canvas, et cetera?
Well, I think that they do use a learning platform as part of a
Correct.
campus-administered course.
Yeah.
So the transition would be certainly a little more seamless once any device issues or anything were addressed. But they've been able to work through that pretty quickly. Certainly the ones that are administered at the college campus have moved through that and kind of gotten back on track and are moving through kind of their final parts of the grading process right now.
Dr. Crawford and Dr. Bitter, for the students having an opportunity, if they are in danger of not receiving credit, what type of opportunity will they be afforded?
Well, we went through this. We wanted to make sure that whatever the student had earned up until the 4th 6 weeks, that's fair. That was earned. That, if you were successful the first semester and then you put the 4th 6 weeks in there with whatever you earned, whether it be a good grade or an average grade, you're probably not going to get hurt. And that's what we really wanted to get through this first phase, was to make sure we were fair, but we weren't punishing any students for having to go to school in a very different manner. We also had some equity concerns. Equity in being that some students might have a structured opportunity for distance learning in their households. Others may have other unstructured opportunities in their households. The one thing about compulsory education is the equity. The equity of you're going to come to school and you're going to have a certified classroom teacher in front of you on a daily basis to ensure the information and the opportunities are going to be provided to you in a very equitable fashion. We don't have access to our students 8 hours a day like we normally do, so we realize there may be a student or two, and one I'm very familiar with, that's having to actually take on some employment opportunities and do a lot of his learning after hours. That's really not an equitable situation right now because of the way the economy's working. So we want to make sure we were fair. So once we get past those and we start looking at the averages of the first 4 6 weeks, then also looking at that 4 6 weeks, or those first 4 6 weeks in the 6 weeks grade, then we can start identifying those students who are in danger of not receiving credit. We feel like with the system that we have here, that the proposal that we have on the suspension of the grading policy, that this will clarify for our campuses those actual students. That you may have students that are successful, that are in a good place, but then you're going to be able to identify a lot of students, or maybe not a lot, but the right students to be able to get them up to speed to receive credit. And so our campuses are doing a heck of a job with administrators, their counselors, in communication with their teachers to develop what is essentially an individualized educational opportunity for each one of these students. They are communicated with. Those students have those certain activities they're supposed to do as they go forward, and then you'll wind up seeing if they receive credit or not. So this will really pare down and identify those students who are in danger of not being successful. And we don't want that to happen in this very chaotic time.
Yes. Thank you. Anyone else?
And so what is the expectation going forward for the next month and 2 days of school as it relates to this?
Any specific piece of this, or?
What do you want the kids and families to do? How does this affect them? What is the expectation from the district for our students going forward now that we have a grading system for high school?
Yeah, so certainly we want our kids to continue to engage in whatever opportunities that are being provided to them and to continue to grow in that. We're really working on our ability to deliver instruction. I think we did a pretty good job of triaging and finding out who had access to what, providing some resources and different things like that. But as we continue to work through it and certainly look towards the future and expanding our skill set, instructional delivery is an issue, and we want to continue to grow in that, and we want kids to engage in that. We're certainly working on guidance for our non-high school credit courses, most of our pre-K to 8 type of system, for them to be able to work through that. Campuses will be working through specifics of that plan that Dr. Crawford was talking about for kids to be able to get credit who were in danger and may not have access to online credit recovery or different things like that. But we want our kids and our campuses to stay in contact with each other and for us to continue to try to meet as many of the needs as we can between now and the end of the school year.
It's correct.
Sure.
It's, the old Carnegie way of grading that we all were used to as far as you get a 60 or 70 or an 80 or 90. That's been a little bit more difficult to ensure during this time. So there is a standards-based grading that we're having on right now. In other words, a teacher should be able to tell in their weekly Zoom calls whether or not kids are getting the actual standards. That's the K through 8 system. But what I would encourage them to do in the next 4 months, to answer your question, is to still participate and have a structured learning opportunity at home, stay connected with their teachers and their classmates when given those opportunities. And before you know it, within the next couple of weeks, we'll start winding down the curriculum as we get into it's almost going to mirror what we normally do in a school setting anyways. We do have some, we do have testing, we have field trips normally. We also have Celebrate Freedom Week, the last week of school here at Tyler ISD. And so those things like that, we'll have something for that, obviously, for the last week of school. Before you know it, you'll be able to wind this down, I think. So there's a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel as far as this goes, Mr. Bergfeld. Because as a parent, I'm also feeling some of that strain as well. But we'll certainly get there as best we can. And like I said, we'll start winding some things down. And but we're going to continue on with distance learning all the way till May 22nd. For obvious reasons. We need to make sure that we are doing justice and providing learning opportunities for students. We know the parents are our partners and that they are providing the very best opportunity they can to get their kids in front of those learning experiences.
Okay, and just so I know people are watching at home, and this is a hot topic, please run it down for us one more time. I got, there's no formal 6 weeks grade. The 6 weeks.
This is high school.
High school?
Only.
Only, okay.
Courses for high school credit only.
High school credit
No
only.
GPA.
The 6 weeks averages the first through the fourth 6 weeks,
Yes, sir.
right? And then what else was there about the four? What was the last piece of that?
The second semester.
Yeah, to get the second semester grade, you take
4 and 6.
6 weeks plus the average of the first 4, average those.
To get the second semester grade, you take 1 through 4, and then
As an average. Uh-huh.
And then
Plug
the
in
rest.
the 6.
Plug
And
in the
use that as
6.
the six weeks.
Okay.
Right, so for a year-long class for high school credit, so if I'm in Algebra 1, okay, so this is my year-long class for high school credit, I've got 4 6 weeks grades that I've earned, they're set, we had equity in those areas, and so the average of those 4 will be added as a 6 weeks grade, and then the average of the 4th and 6th would be the second semester grade. And then, as a yearly average would get calculated between the first and second semester, that would go as normal. So essentially what that does is it does limit the weight. If you took that 4th 6 weeks and just made it the second semester grade for a year-long class, it would carry the same weight as the first semester in that body of work. And that's not reflective of the entire body of work up until that point. And so it does lessen that impact a little bit. If you had a great first semester and then a little bit of a rough 4 6 weeks or some different things in
Coming
there.
off of Christmas,
Right.
knowing you had 2 more 6 weeks left.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just wanted it repeated mainly for those parents who might be listening at home that blinked or saw something that distracted them during the rundown in the beginning. So I know this is important to a lot of people.
Very.
So. And then on the elementary and middle school side of things, we're still just
Standards-based.
standards-based.
With a teacher, I encourage a lot of interactions both ways between the household and our teachers to being able to meet standard, and then promotion to the next grade.
Okay.
Each teacher, we're going to ask them for their students to write a narrative, almost an individualized education plan as far as them going to the next grade. They're the ones that know their students better than anyone. And so this will be a good opportunity for that time as far as interaction goes.
Okay. Clear as mud.
I'm glad you
Clear
all
as
asked
mud.
those questions because parents need to hear that. But suppose a parent is not watching television. Where will their understanding come from?
Yeah, we're going to release an FAQ tomorrow. So the typical places, the landing page on the COVID landing page for the district, we'll have all types of information as well. But usually, as we always do, please contact your campus administrator. We're trying to, depress the span of control as far as information goes. They're the easiest to certainly get a hold of when you start talking about 18,000 students and 32,000 parents.
And I think listening to you, Mr. Bergfeld and Mr. Washman and you and Dr. Bitter, it's important that our parents and students understand that only the doors of the schools are closed. We are still educating students.
Yes, ma'am. It is distance learning. It is the brick and mortar facilities are closed to students and visitors. Okay, so that would be anybody that's not an employee of the school system. District staff and faculty, certainly essential personnel has access to facilities right now. And then depending upon what the governor and then what the county decides to do will be determining on how we act as far as allowing teachers to get back up there. And we'll go over some of that here in a minute about some things that we're concerned about as we wrap up school.
Okay, board, are we ready to vote to approve?
I have just one more
Yes.
question for Dr. Crawford. So, if I'm a parent of a high school student, which I am, but let's say it's not me, it's a hypothetical person, and I just learned that
Ritz Fager.
Okay. that none of the work that I've done the last few weeks or that I will do for the balance of the semester is going to count towards my grade. Why would we not just shut down school? So I think that's a question that we've heard, is if none of the work is going to count, what other factors are we considering to keep the schools functioning?
Well, I think if you wind up shutting down school, you talk about your food service program. That's one thing that I'd be concerned about, the continuation of that as well. It's already been a commitment from the governor and the Texas Education Agency that school finance will not be affected as long as you're providing distance learning opportunities. And certainly we want to be able to make sure that we're compensating our teaching staff as well. There's also contractual obligations of the school system that is embedded in the statutory code, the Texas Education Code, that if you were to say cut it off today, then we would be out of compliance and being able to proctor contracts to teaching staff, again, for next year. A lot of these things are next year problems that we're experiencing right now, even though it's a this year problem for a lot of us as parents and even as educators. So there's a lot of statutory limitations that we have in just saying that we're going to shut the school system down right now and not fulfill our calendar obligations.
So distance learning is continuing for academic support. What about behavioral support?
Oh, absolutely. Social emotional learning is certainly a huge component of this.
Right.
For one, let's encourage people to make sure that kids are getting outside and exercising.
Good.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that for the kids or the
Yes.
parents?
Yeah. Along with
It
our
may be
parents.
for both.
Get outside. The weather's been beautiful. Take advantage of that. So that's the first thing I'm going to say. Get some of that, is it vitamin D that you
Good.
get from the sun? Get some vitamin D. The other thing I'm going to say is we do have opportunities for a counselor to call a student in an anonymous fashion. Get online, you fill out a form, you get that back to the campus, and then a counselor will be able to call and talk to the student. Heck, we'll talk to the parents if they need some help as well. So we do have that social emotional component there as well. A lot of our campuses are pushing out videos that are assisting with some of that as well, along with some other social emotional learning opportunities. Have some campuses that are still doing Leader in Me lessons, along with some other initiatives they've got going on. So Just depends on pretty much the campus, but we do have a system-wide social emotional learning support, and that is located at on the homepage of your campus. Fill that out, get it back to the counselor. We'll get you in touch with the help that you need.
I know you have some good behavioral support teams, so I'm glad to hear
Absolutely.
that. Parents probably need it too, Mr. Berkeley. May I have a motion to approve Roman numeral 11A regarding our EIC local class ranking?
I move that we approve policy EIC local class ranking for the 2019-2020 school year.
All right, Mr. Berkeley, is there a second? Seconded by Reverend Fritz Hager. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposers? The ayes have it, the motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Bitter. And we're always excited to hear our superintendent staff report. Dr. Crawford?
Yes. Let me get to that in my book real quick. First thing you have in your packet, you know, we were certainly fortunate that this thing did not hit prior to the the primary elections. If it had been a different year to where you didn't have primary elections, we might have waited a little bit longer before the municipal elections to make sure that we were fulfilling our obligation as a deputy voter registrar. And as you know, all of our high school principals are voter registrars, deputized by the state of Texas upon signing their name to the contract. They don't even have to raise their hand up in the air or anything. So tonight, we have, as part of our presentation, our report, the high school voter registration data. On the third slide in your packet, there we go. We have our actual numbers for you. It's very interesting when you start combining all of the numbers that we've put here for you. You know, we were a little bit concerned back in the fall that we only registered 43 and then 52 at our two comprehensive high schools, and then only 15 at Early College and Rise as well, out of the eligible numbers. But then we got to the spring, made a big push this spring as well to be able to register eligible voters of our student voters as far as the spring goes. I think you can tell the numbers have drastically improved, and if you'll look at the very bottom of the slide right here, you'll see that we have just over 1,000 PEEMs enrolled for 12th grade, about 1,000 students enrolled for 12th grade in Tyler ISD. So to be able to say that, if you look at the amount registered out of the amount eligible, and you understand that number at the bottom, but you also understand that there are nearly 300 current high school students that turn 18 after the May election deadline and before the August school year begins. If you put all those together, I think our rate's pretty good as far as getting kids registered and signed up. Mm-hmm. So, you know, my own student was, or my own child, my senior in high school, 2 years ago, I guess, or no, it was this year. He turned 18 in October. He wouldn't have been captured on this because I think we signed him up over at the driver's license place. So that we've got some of that going on there as well. I do think that we're doing the best we possibly can, and these are accurate numbers that we can use going forward on whether or not we're capturing enough registered voters. And I can't remember what we had 3 or 4 years ago when we weren't even doing this. There was some advocacy group that was coming in trying to enroll our kids, and they released some type of map to the Dallas Morning News, and we were a big old pink blob. So when we took this on ourselves, we've actually, I think, got a lot of kids registered for the district. That's all I got. Any questions?
I don't. Any questions, board?
No?
We'll keep plugging.
Yes, sir.
John Landis, kudos to him for spearheading this. And I don't know if he's watching tonight, but we certainly are sad that he'll be moving on to pursue some other opportunities of his own choosing. Done a great job for us, and can't wait to figure out who's going to pick up this responsibility, among other things.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Crawford.
Thank you.
And as we move right along, the quarterly financial executive summary and investment report. Oh, yes, interesting things happening in finances.
We're gonna wait on the CFO to
We will.
make her way down here so y'all can ask her some questions. Hmm, 82 degrees tomorrow in Tyler, Texas.
Well, welcome back to Tyler ISD.
Thank you. How are you?
How are you?
Good.
Great, good to see you. Anything you need to bring to our attention on the quarterly financial report summary as well as the investment?
Well, so far, we're moving right along just like we do every year. No problems on the financials. On the investments, if you go to page, let me find it, 106, that's just an overall summary of our investments, and we have around $237 million invested right now. And our effective rate of return on the entire investment portfolio is around 2%. And then the pages behind it just get into detail on each fund and how much we have invested in each fund. Now, this was as of February. Things have changed a little bit.
Yes, they have.
But some of these are locked in for a while, so we'll be okay for a little bit on some of them.
Board members, do you have any questions?
Just one general question about financial performance. So in an environment where we're not operating schools, the school building, yet we're paying our employees.
Yes.
Trying to get a sense for, are we saving any money?
Yes.
On a monthly basis, the longer this goes on?
Utilities, fuel for the school buses, and just general supplies, custodial supplies.
Do we have a sense for how much money that's going to be for the balance of this year to the good? I mean,
It's kind of hard to tell at this point. What were you estimating? You had a good.
I should just ask you.
Right. He was thinking about it, but it's kind of hard at this point.
It is, and I'm just basing this off of other districts that I'm listening to of substantial size, and then trying to
Much larger.
much larger, reduce that down. That I think we were saying, it was something like $5 million a month in Dallas ISD. So if you, and of course they've got a huge finance department that's just calculating these things all the time. So if you reduce that down, then we're probably doing decent in the a couple $100,000 a month could potentially be in savings.
I would think at least that.
We're just kind of just really roughly guessing at that right now, but we're going to capture that for y'all, I think, eventually. To present to you, but I don't have anything to report other than just knowing what other people have reported and knowing kind of what we do, and then thinking that we're probably going to be around a couple $100,000 a month. So you could probably say that over the span of the 2.5 months that we're probably going to be off, it would be somewhere upwards of $500,000.
And there's other things. I mean, like
Yeah.
we aren't having to have subs now, and there's a lot of things that I'm kind of. Well, that's a separate fund, food service, and so they'll actually lose money because they're not getting all the federal reimbursement, but he needed to reduce his fund balance anyway, so it kind of helped him.
We're being pretty particular on budget expenses. For one, there's no travel to come out of budgets, and we're not recruiting, and so
And we're not hiring open positions if it's something that we can wait on till July, till the next school year? Because right now we don't need them.
Yeah,
Like
talk
if
about
you have an open
manual trades, things like that.
or an open aid in classroom aid or that type of thing, we are not filling those, so we have savings there also.
At the same time, there's unexpected expenses we have through this distance learning and extra building cleaning up.
We're tracking some of it separately for FEMA reimbursement. We are on that path for that.
Yeah, we've got specific codes that we've tagged to some of these weird expenses that come up. And then we're also participating in the Joint Information Center as far as the countywide effort goes as well. So getting a lot of assistance for them as far as FEMA expenditures as we go. We got on that pretty early, like right away.
Yes.
I just wanted to say to you that you and I go back some 40 years.
A lot, yeah.
Many of you are not aware, but I don't know if any of you knew Ruth York or knows Ruth York, but she was the dreaded person that came to the campuses, and we all dreaded seeing her as well as she probably dreaded coming. And she and Tasha stayed on principles. We didn't have any accountants then. They did it. They came to the campuses and they did the work. And I want to say how much I appreciate the times that we spent. Well, no, I didn't appreciate all of them, but I appreciated learning from you and
Well, thank you.
you encouraging us to be on top of our financial dealings on our at the campus level. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, I'll miss you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anything else, board members? Okay. Welcome back again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tasha.
Most people think that school board members just meet once a month, and that's it, or maybe twice a month. But if you'll see in your board packets, we have all met our criteria, Mr. President, for our training. Is there anything you want to add to that, Mr. President?
No, ma'am.
So, to the new board members who will be coming on, there's a lot of training, walking long hallways and sitting long hours. But it's all beneficial, and you learn how to appreciate a school district much more when you become a board member. You see it from a different angle. So thank each one of the board members for meeting the requirements and exceeding in some areas. All right, Dr. Crawford, local policy DEA, first
Yes,
reading.
ma'am. We'll get onto that. I'll make one more comment on your school board training.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be fun the next
Yes, it
6
is.
months, them figuring out how y'all are going to get your training. There'll be a lot of virtual, I'm feeling. I'm going to tell you what, I don't know if there's one virtual training that for a school board member that I'd want to sit in front of. So, or not even for a superintendent, I can tell you that right now. So, anyways,
I know you.
Reverend Mason, you might have got in on the back end of how they're going to do it old school. It may be all going virtual forever now. Who knows? Local policy DEA, first reading. This is a change up to our payroll policy in regard to talking about if we ever have another one of these situations to where we're in this, identifying folks and paying those mostly hourly workers from the essential point of view, the emergency pay that we've talked about. We did have 1 week of emergency pay in Tyler ISD, and that was the week right after spring break. Most of our people that were deemed essential that worked during that week were salaried individuals, professional staff. However, we did start serving food that week, so they would have been deemed emergency personnel. There's a change up on this on page 134 to make sure that we're in alignment with what TASB recommended, that if we ever get another situation like this, that we could possibly put ourselves in a better position to do it. Again, I don't think we weren't in a bind whenever this happened just for 1 week, but we could have been stuck if this would have been for a long period of time in regard to determining who was eligible for that pay. The policy as written in your packet is a replacement policy, if I can get to that as well. And so there's the blue on the very back end on page 136 in regards to premium paid during disasters. So it's an addition.
We've all told you as board members how proud we are of how this district has managed this crisis situation. So we continue to support you in whatever needs to be done, Dr. Crawford.
Thank you.
All right. COVID-19.
So being passed around at this time is a communique from me to y'all.
Famous word,
And we
COVID.
will do what, just like I'm sorry, Reverend Hager, that's yours. Can you pass that around for me, please? This is something that we did last month, executive summary, and I just read every bulleted item. Y'all can make notes, or you may have some questions for me, and then we can we'll just kind of spur the discussion in regard to kind of what's going on and what we kind of see and anticipate in the future.
Okay. Are you going to highlight these, Dr. Crawford? Okay, stand up and deliver.
As you know, district operations continue to flow. We're 7 weeks into not physically seeing our students or teachers. So I went back and double checked that. But if you count spring break plus the 6 weeks of instruction that we finished, it's been a long time. And we certainly are, concerned about that. Hadn't seen all of our teachers in that long as well. We're projecting 9 weeks maximum from the beginning to end of this distance learning program. We didn't count the week of emergency preparation that we had. You add in spring break, that's a heartbreaking 10 weeks that we're finishing out the semester here. I'm saying it as a parent, I'm saying it as a school superintendent, I'm saying it as an educator. It's heartbreaking because we are in this profession to serve students. That's our main priority, and it's been very difficult for us to not see them. Food distribution, it is leveled out. It's about 13,000 plus meals per week being provided. Typical sites, Moore, Three Lakes, Hubbard, and Bolter, along with Griffin, Austin, Dixie, and Caldwell. A lot of school districts are condensing down to the amount of days that they're serving lunches and the locations. A lot of that was done because of social distancing. We're praying that because of what's flattening, the curve's flattening here in Smith County, we're not going to have to make those type of decisions. So we can continue on with a daily distribution of food for our people. East Texas Food Bank continues to serve alongside of us when they can as far as the emergency boxes go. That's once a week. And then Mentoring Alliance staff assist us as well as the East Texas Food Bank in packing and distributions. Again, I apologize to read to you, but we do have a public that they can't be here tonight. But campuses vary, but we continue to see a few students we've been unable to reach. We've resorted to sending USPS mail communications now, if we can't get them electronically through a phone call or an email, and even some physical visits to homes as well. We encourage if they're watching tonight, if there's any information, anybody's looking for information, please contact your campus if we haven't heard from you. We're worried about them, for one. Some campuses have been able to contact and work with 100% of their student body. Very proud of them. But the overall estimate is 2 to 4% at some campuses and 5 to 7% we think district-wide that we have been unable to contact. That's the best estimate I can give you. Again, we've been unable to reach them or refusal to make arrangements for curriculum possible. We've been able to contact some people, but they won't let us know how we can get curriculum packets to them. Whether we need to go drop them off, or we've asked for that as well, or they can't come pick them up, or they won't come get it. A lot of those are just inaccurate phone numbers and email and physical addresses in our system. It's pretty tough. At the first of a school year, we're able to verify just about every piece of contact information we have. But as it changes, and I'm sure some people have cut their phones off, maybe they've even moved. We're just unaware of where those folks have gone. Transportation Department continues to deliver special education curriculum across the district. We are very pleased with that. That was a really tough, there was no waiver provided by the Department of Education in DC in regard to special education. And so that put some really large districts in a bind, but we've been able to manage ours. 1,800 or so students of ours are identified as special education, and we've been able to provide the curriculum to them. We realize everyone's getting a little bit of cabin fever, and parents and students are getting anxious because of this distance learning. Our plan is to continue providing the opportunities for students and remain engaged and accessible for all students. Teachers and campuses continue to have office hours for contact, either through Zoom or other video platforming, phone, or email. We've reinforced with the principals as late as last week and again today that we want to make sure that our classroom teachers are accessible for our students. Again, I can't reiterate enough that that's what makes the distance learning go. Now, whether or not parents are providing that structured opportunity at home for them to be able to get on that Zoom call or to maybe send an email or take a phone call from a teacher, we're asking for their partnership and making sure that occurs the next 3 or 4 weeks as we wind down the school year. There's a variety of student and parent comments and suggestions for distance learning, as y'all can imagine. They've been provided to the district, and we're listening, trying to adjust where we can. Encourage our students and our parents to continue to work through the assignments, as we discussed earlier tonight, and communicate with our teachers and principals, and understand that not much remains of this phase of distance learning, and that we will get our students back for the fall semester, get them caught up. It's what we and our teachers are here to do. And I've seen a couple of tweets out there from teachers across the state and across the nation that have said that to make sure we're communicating with our parents. We know that y'all are in a tough situation right now, and we don't like it, and we've all made the best that we possibly can out of it. Love on your kids and try to lead them to learning as opposed to mandating that. I've had a couple of conversations with y'all as trustees and me as a superintendent. I've had to change the way that I demand some of my home accountability, and I'm hoping that could serve as a model to some of our other parents that are out there. Continue to hold on to our desire to execute graduations in a ceremonious fashion. Participating in a working group with TEA that is putting recommendations for graduation standards together for the commissioner, who I think is going to wind up passing it along to the governor and his strike force teams to kind of make a recommendation. I'm hoping it doesn't get to that. I'm hoping that they're going to go ahead and just give the counties the opportunity to go ahead and open up. We're in conversations with Judge Moran about, what a graduation could possibly look like at Rose Stadium. And after watching Air Force Academy this weekend, if our students will certainly toe the line as they do at the Air Force Academy, we can have one at Rose Stadium. That's what we're holding on to. Here in the next week or so, we are going to pick some backup dates. We're going to go ahead and get those out, some just-in-case dates so people can make plans. That if we can't get May 22nd done, then what does something in June look like? What does something in July look like? Because we're pretty committed to making sure we have some type of ceremony at Rose Stadium. Or, well, I think we're all going to have all of them at Rose Stadium. We're not going to go indoors. Eventually, if the executive order does allow, I just went over that. So there you go. Okay, yeah, this next bullet is important. If we can't get our kiddos graduated by May 22nd, or 20th through the 23rd at our 4 different high school graduations, we're still going to certify our graduates. We certify our graduates in a very ceremonious fashion. We get on the stage and the principal gives it to me and then I give it to y'all. And that is not a requirement in statute. The requirement is the high school principals certify their kids that they passed all their courses and got all their end of course exam. I mean, it gets on their transcript even before they walk across or theoretically could happen before they walk across the stage. So we're going to make sure we do that digitally. So we'll get something from the campus to the superintendent, and I'll kick it over to a board member. We may even have the Val and Sal speeches done digitally, maybe. I don't know yet. But we want to make sure we at least give some type of indication to the kids that they've graduated, have their transcript saying they've graduated, and they feel like they've been certified so that they can go into their post-secondary experience. And that could be military, it could be going to work, or it could be going to TJC's Welcome Week or Baylor's Welcome Week or Fish Camp for A&M or whatever they're doing this year. I don't know what they're doing, but that way they'll feel like they can go do that. I've heard that from some parents, and I think that'll alleviate some of the concerns as far as their college-going experience, with the understanding that we still want them back in June or July to walk the stage if we can possibly make that happen. We're developing a package for the board to move us closer to one-to-one. I think that is one thing that we have understood here is there's a little bit of inequity in regard to that. It's going to be a pretty affordable package. If we get positioned into a similar experience like we have now, we've learned a lot of lessons, as Dr. Hanson said here at the podium about 45 minutes ago, that we need to be better prepared if this does occur again. It's also going to give us an opportunity to go ahead and grow up and have a little bit of, or a lot of, technology inside of our classrooms, that if we get stuck in a situation like this, that it won't be so foreign for our students to be able to log in. Now, some of that means that we're going to have to look at some other learning platforms as well. I spoke about Clever and then Google Classroom, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are some other opportunities that are out there, other platforms that are out there that I think that we would be interested in and be very engaging for a student. I think some of the things that we put out there might fit our needs, but may not fit the student needs. And that might be some of the reasons why we're having a little bit of difficulty in keeping their attention, because it's a very business-like platform, and trying to get a fifth grader or fourth grader to get excited about some of that stuff makes it awfully difficult to get them excited and keep them engaged. The colleges and a handful of school systems already have some of these platforms, and we'll be looking certainly not to reinvent the wheel, but look at something that's appropriate for a K-12.
And just one comment, Dr. Crawford, when we say one-to-one, for any parent that's watching that might not be in the education realm, it's a device in every kid's hand, correct?
Correct. A device in every student's hand.
Yeah.
For student use. And so in saying that is something we are certainly want to do. Google, the Chromebooks, is that right? Is that what they're called? Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Makes a very affordable device for education. We'll certainly, and it's a pretty agile device, able to do a lot of different things. We're also able to control a lot of accessibility, even away from the school system. Is that correct, Joseph? Right. If you're worried about that. In other words, getting on some sites that you're not supposed to be on. So we like that, and I think that's probably the direction we're going to go. Affordability and the able to make sure that the security is appropriate for schools as well. This next bullet is not as comfortable to report, but we are preparing for next year, and we've all had conversations here, individual, away from a board meeting, of course, about the shape of our economy. And y'all, I'm just going to tell you, as educators, as the chief educator of Tyler ISD and representing our teaching staff and all of the folks that support our mission, we thank y'all and are very appreciative to y'all and to the community and the state of Texas and allowing us to continue to work during this time. Most of our contracts, all of our contracts pretty much end June 30th, and they kind of start back over. We realize that we are not immune to what a lot of folks are already experiencing right now. And we also know that the way the economy works, that oil and gas prices, the refining of that into gasoline products, sales tax, that people go and spend money, is certainly something that influences this as well. And so we're certainly doing what we're supposed to do, and for this next fiscal year, We're going to cut back a little bit, considering that 80 to 85% of our expenditures are in people. We're doing the best we can to backfill positions, backfill vacancies from different departments and central administrations, or absorb vacant administrative positions. We have a number in mind to get to. We think we can get halfway there. That's for this year. Next spring, we're going to have in the 87th legislature is coming up. And because Texas derives a lot of its budget from oil and gas proceeds, along with sales tax and other things, it's going to be pretty lean. And it's not like we've never done this. I think I was sharing with y'all that in the almost 20 years of being an administrator, I've already been through 3 of these. So once every 5 or 6 years, we wind up having some type of adjustment to the Texas Public School Finance Program because of what's going on with the economy. And so we're here again, and we are going through that and trying to make sure that we're doing it the right way and keeping our classrooms protected the best that we possibly can. We've talked a lot about people. There are some programmatic shifts that we can possibly consider as far as reductions and maybe even some eliminations of those. So we'll get to that as well. Yeah, economic suppression was another word that I used down there.
And construction is a different funding?
Yes, sir.
And won't be affected finishing up our construction projects?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We're fortunate, if there can be any fortune with all of this, that will not be impacted at this time. If this would have happened a year ago, we would have some pretty big concern in regard to where we were at as far as construction goes then, and what we've spent, and then even the price of materials, et cetera. But we're so close. Within 14 months of wrapping that project up, that we're close enough to not be impacted as of yet, and I don't anticipate that as well.
Dr. Crawford, on the issue of construction, are there things that we are doing that are actually accelerating our timeline?
Yes.
We don't have students in those buildings?
Yeah, so we went ahead and accelerating demo. Not so much the C&D wing at John Tyler is making tremendous progress regardless, because they were already going through this. So they're not speeding up any quicker. But what we are able to do is get some areas demoed before, or conduct demolition on some areas and speed that up by a month or 2. And we took a little bit of a risk, but we did it in such a fashion that if the governor came back or Judge Moran came back and said, "Thou shalt open schools," or you may open schools if you choose, we could have gone back and shifted and cleaned everything up real quick. But yeah, there's a big pile of dirt right now inside of JT in regard to in some of the renovating areas. We're starting to prep for demo for the middle portion for the media center at John Tyler. That's a big part of the project. So we're ahead of schedule on that. We're packing up stuff at Lee so that we can go ahead and start demo at the band hall and start working east along that line that goes and runs in front of the auditorium. So we're mobilizing for that right now and preparing for that. So yes, sir, good question. Absolutely. Didn't mean to give you a whole construction update. The last thing that we do want to talk to the board about, and y'all have even asked me, is we're looking at a possible start date for August 3rd, but we're not committed to that yet. And I know this is being live streamed, and I don't want to make anybody panic yet. I also too have summer vacation plans, as do a lot of other folks, and we don't want to try to. It's got to make sense for us to do it first, and so I just want to make sure that we're looking at everything. We're looking at everything from an August 3rd start date to an August 17th start date, which was our normal start date, and then maybe just extending the year past Memorial Day. Or we're looking at possibly starting on August the 17th and then just extending our minutes, as far as minutes of instruction every day. Because there's no doubt as we've talked a lot about summer slide and the cognitive development of our learners, that this has not been great for them. Now, we also realize what the spring semester looks like, especially as you get towards the back end. And as you get towards the back end, you start having testing dates, you start having testing prep. And while that it is good cognitively, it is not like it's any new instruction or any new strategies that are being introduced at that time. And then once you get into May, you're finished with testing, and you're doing a lot of enrichment experiences that we all love as an elementary student. We still do that here in Tyler ISD, which is why I love Tyler ISD for my own kids. And then we have Constitution Week the last week. So in saying that, I don't want everyone to panic that we've lost, an entire semester of learning, even though we've had this very awkward simulation of learning going on. We're going to get there. We're just going to have to figure out a different way to attack it and get our kids some experience. And it may be a 2-year recovery. It may be that we have to wait until the following summer to get a lot of our kids some enrichment in summer. Just kind of depends on the guidance we get from those that are making decisions that are on a different pay grade than we all are. What questions do y'all have as I wrap up my update? Comments, concerns?
I'm wondering if you've had any conversations about non-contact athletic workouts at some point this summer, planned it out or anything like that?
Well, I haven't talked to our coaches specifically. I can get Coach Priest to ask that question, what their plans look like. I can guarantee you that Coach Holmes and Coach Willis are chomping at the bit to get their kids into some type of shape. Been keeping up with a lot of that on Twitter, and they've been doing a good job, but there's nothing better than getting everybody back together. And there's going to have to be some lead-up time if we are going to play competitive athletics beginning in August. Competitive athletics at the high school level is now a year-round activity, unlike when we were all going to school. Even though we all tried to stay in shape in off-season, we lifted weights. Nothing what they're allowed to do now and what they are doing now to keep a lot of our kiddos in shape. So not being able to go through that plan right now is something our coaches are concerned about. I know the UIL's bouncing around some different alternatives about what next season could look like for all of our sports. But we tend to think of the ones that are high impact early in the heat. We really want to make sure that we're careful with them. And that has been conveyed, that if we have any chance of playing competitive football, when we get back, we need to get exposure to the sun and the heat when it starts getting hot again. So I'm hoping that times up with a recommendation from the UIL as approved by the Commissioner of Education and the Governor to get our kids back out. So nothing yet, Mr. Martinez. I hate to disappoint you on that.
But if I understood what you just said right there, it's going to take some change to UIL rules, which normally severely limit what can be done during the summer.
No doubt. 5A and 6A schools all missed spring football this summer. Nobody got to a spring. So that automatically says that 2-a-days start on August the 3rd. And I still don't think that that's enough time with all the summer conditioning that goes on and year-round conditioning that goes on now. These are highly skilled teenagers and conditioned teenagers.
Is that one working?
Hello? Yeah.
These are.
You there?
Yep.
Okay, so I think there's probably going to be some safety concern there, obviously. And there would have to be some adjustment to the UIL. They've talked about, before they said that we weren't going to go back to physical school, they had talked about coaches being allowed to coach their kids in the summer past the dates that they cut you off, which would have been great. So I'm sure that they're probably thinking the same way in regard to how much time and how much coaching can occur before the actual first day of practice, August 3rd.
I just have a comment about one of the earlier bullet points, which was graduation. And I really, you alluded to if the governor gives, the county the ability to determine a few things. And I really do hope that if the governor and the strike force, or whatever they may call it, truly do believe in local control, then that goes down to the county level, and that we're able, and they trust us to assess what we're able to do, and trust that the Smith County has wise and capable leaders and council. And graduation is, selfishly, is one of the coolest experiences I think that Tyler ISD has, and that every kid has, as they move on to a new phase of life. And there just needs to be a way for us to give that to these seniors who've already missed, what'll end up being 10 weeks of their senior year in high school. And I really do hope that that they give that local control to us to pull that off in some way. And so I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that publicly, Mr. Washman. There's no doubt that I think we've got more than capable people to design something that is safe for our community, understanding the conditions that we're in. We won't be reckless. I even think our students will make good decisions and understand the reward to be able to see their classmates together for one final time, if provided this opportunity. So I think there's going to be some great citizenship that's going to be exhibited once we do that. And certainly we'll keep everybody safe as we possibly can, checking temperatures at the gate if we have to, et cetera, encouraging people to wear masks, keeping people 6 to 8 feet apart. There will be some opportunities there to show what Smith County can do, and I'm hoping that we get that opportunity.
You have done two things, well, you've done a lot of things, but two that were heavy on my heart: feeding the students, making sure they were able to have their meals, and you're planning on the graduation. And I'm like Mr. Washman right now. I really hope that we can do that. There are so many students who are asking, will we have graduation? And I've only said that the district is going to do the best that it can to ensure that you will have some form of a graduation ceremony, and I certainly hope we will.
Yeah, we don't know what that looks like yet, but got some ideas on some alternates. For some reason when these crises happen, I always have a kid wrapped up in the middle of it somehow. Ashton was a junior in my previous job when we had this, and that group of kids were special to me because it was a smaller place, and we figured out a way to get them graduated. And then the next year was the year that the seniors lived in portables all year. We've kind of done that in Tyler. That's not anything unique here. We're getting rid of that though. In saying that, and then this year, it does mean something to me, yeah. But every kid, every year deserves a graduation ceremony. And regardless of personal ties that we may have to graduates or potential graduates, hope they make it, we certainly want to make sure that we have that in place for them. And the same thing goes for, we start getting into next year, once we get past this, Reverend Mason. I'm concerned about what the fall looks like as far as some of the extracurricular activities. So we're going to do what we can, do it as safe a manner as we possibly can, not be reckless when we can. But we're also going to look at data and try to carve through some of the rhetoric that's out there on a that's what you've got to do. Again, this contagious sickness that we've got going on here does concern a lot of people, does concern me. But at the same time, you're talking about opportunities and experiences that are once in a lifetime opportunities for our students. And if there's a window in there for us to do it and do it in a safe way, we're going to jump all over it, including opening school back. And I've had a few emails sent to me about what does that look like next year. Well, again, there's a lot of statutory relaxation that's going to happen from the governor and the commissioner of education's offices to be able to allow us to do some of that. And I'm hoping that they'll consider that as well. What other questions or comments may you have?
Looks like that's it, Dr. Crawford.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Future board business, May 7th, board workshop, and we'll be here. Is that right, Dr. Crawford? May 7th?
Yes, ma'am.
And
We will have a board workshop on May the 7th. Gina, I believe that's the day we're going to swear folks in? Yes, that is the date we're going to swear folks in. We did get confirmation from the Secretary of State's office to be able to swear our folks in. There's not an election this year. It's all been pushed back to November. Usually you have to canvass and swear folks in after the election, but the Secretary of State has ruled after May 2nd. What? After the regularly scheduled election date, which was May 2nd, you can actually swear to the new trustees in. You'll actually exit the board officially that day and go from that direction. And by the way, if folks are watching still, we are still going to have Reverend Mason's reception. If it's a year from now, we're still going to have the reception. So I know some folks have been concerned about that. She has meant a lot to this school system. We are going to honor her appropriately, just like we do a lot of other trustees when they go out, long-standing, long-serving trustees, with the reception, as soon as we're allowed to do so, Reverend Mason.
And I do understand.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Regular meeting on?
May 18th.
May 18th. That's right. Okay, I have my book in front of me, so just trying
So
to
if
get
I
past
might have
April
a
20th.
point of personal privilege, I want to express my appreciation to our board president, Mr. Wade Washman, to each one of these outstanding board members for, this is a great opportunity. I don't know who said it, but service is a rent you pay for your stay here on earth, and I paid a lot of rent, and I've had an awesome time. I don't know of any other board that can measure up to the Tyler Independent School District Board of Trustees. And the work that we have done together, even when there may have been some times where we slightly disagreed.
Rent got pretty high there for a little while.
There was still great love and respect for each other. My life will never be the same. Just know that when I walk out the door on May the 7th, I walk out with a piece of each one of you in my heart. So thank you all so much. I'll now entertain oh well, bless you, thank you. Thank you.
Point of personal privilege, let me also say before we start this, there's, as we know, there's a time and a place for everything under the sun. Doesn't mean we have to enjoy it, doesn't mean we have to be happy about it. And that's how I feel about today. And that it's time, you've served honorably, you've served long, with great distinction and with great love for the kids and teachers and staff at GISD and for each of us. And so you're going to be greatly missed, but I know that there is other work that God has prepared for you that you, I know, will be obedient and walk in. And I'm just sad that it's no longer here as a trustee, but our community's better for you having been here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You want me to so moved?
May I entertain a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Moved by Dr. Nations, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by our board president, Mr. Washman, that we adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposers? The ayes have it and motion carries. God bless Tyler ISD.